So coming to the very important question, you use social media very strongly.
Right.
Recently you had a problem with Vodafone.
Right.
So can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I mean, actually, it was Vodafone. I had an issue with Vodafone 3G services, and I happened to post some comments on Vodafone, and Vodafone disliked it. They sent me a legal notice. I sent them a counter legal notice, and then eventually, it kind of spiraled into a social media agitation, so to speak, because Vodafone, in their legal notice, had asked me to remove the post that I put on Facebook. And a lot of people saw this, people who microbloggers and people who are on social media, they saw this as an infringement of freedom of expression or democracy. And I think it happened, about 3 months after your Arab Spring, the Jasmine revolution. And that made people feel very empowered. People thought that social media could do a lot of things. If you can overthrow governments in Egypt and Libya and all of that, social media has limitless possibilities. So I think it happened around that time, and I got a lot of support from social media. Because of the social media support, there was a big brand like Vodafone involved that captured the imagination of traditional media as well. And the fact that this was probably one of the biggest, one of the case where, customers stood up and sent a legal notice, and also, Vodafone made a mistake saying that, remove it off Facebook. That hurt a lot of Facebook fans, So eventually it got spiraled into a very, very big issue. So Vodafone got a lot of bad publicity. I have a friend in PR who, after a week's time told me that Vodafone has, you got a publicity which is worth 1 crore. If you look at, the blogging that has happened about this issue or the media coverage that has happened. And so I asked him, I said, what about bad publicity that Vodafone has got? So he says it's immeasurable. They'll have to work a lot to kind of get rid of this. Because what happened is what social media made possible was that the story got picked up by AFP. The moment it got picked up by AFP, then it was picked up by the microblogging community. And because Vodafone is present in 36 odd countries or whatever, it got translated. The AFP news got translated. It became a big, huge thing. And I still keep getting calls from media companies saying that yours was a landmark, this thing, and they would want to interview me for some story that they're doing and all of that. But I think, for me, I've always been a consumer activist. Social media post, just happened by chance. I happened to put it on this thing, and then I followed it up. The biggest thing was, people from across India, they looked me up, from US, Australia, they kind of pinged me on my Facebook. There were lawyers who said that if you, decide to fight this case legally in the court of law, then we will do it pro bono. Okay, so there were a lot of people who supported me. My contact list almost doubled during that 2 months. I started getting calls because my phone number is listed on Facebook. So I started getting calls from people who had similar incidents to share, or people just called me up saying that we are really proud of you. Please don't, let up and all of that. So that was it basically.
Ultimately, what happened? What did Vodafone follow up with?
So what happened was that Vodafone, it took a while for Vodafone to essentially, understand the damage this was creating for them or to their brand. Within 3 or 4 days after it, started getting the media attention, social media and traditional media, and it got carried in by AFP. That's when, probably the second senior most guy, a gentleman called Samaresh Parida, he engaged with me. So they offered me money to shut up, and they offered me money. I have email communications where he said that we will be paying you money, but you have to keep shut and you cannot talk about, the money settlement. So I wasn't very okay with it because the kind of support I had got, I said, I can't accept money and keep mum. So I said that I reserve my right to talk about it. If there is a settlement, I will talk about it. Which they didn't want, because they thought that this could create a huge liability for a company which has got 13 crore customers, and in telecom, I think a lot of customers are unhappy, right? So they essentially, it didn't work out. I mean, eventually they apologized, and that apology was also, became a story. And then I think I didn't let up then. I went to Try. I said that Try needs to have a notification which clearly states that, people, telecom vendors cannot take you on a ride with 3G services. So eventually Try came out with a notification, and I think Sharma was also quoted saying that we will enforce it. And if Sharma, who's the TRAI head, he was quoted in a magazine saying that if telecom providers don't follow this notification, then we will take action against them. So that's essentially it. So I felt good that I followed it up, and actually got to this thing. The biggest learning was that this is a limitless medium. I mean, social media. The amount of connect it provides. I mean, people feel empowered because they know that there are hundreds of people like them.
Correct.
I think it's a great leveler as well. I mean, I can tweet today, have Mahindra, or if I have having an issue, I can tweet today and get the attention and get noticed by a Kingfisher guy or a Mahindra, any company that I have an issue with. Sure. So it's a great leveler for a consumer like me.